Many people don't know that NVIDIA started at a Denny's. In 1993, Chris, Curtis, and I sat in a booth at a Denny's in San Jose, drinking endless cups of coffee and wondering if we could build a company that would change the way people use computers. Back then, I was a dishwasher, a busboy, and a waiter. I cleaned toilets, I scrubbed floors, and I cleared tables. I wasn't just doing those jobs, I was trying to be the best dishwasher Denny's had ever seen. I optimized the flow of the plates, I organized the cutlery for maximum efficiency, and I learned that no job is beneath you if you want to build a foundation of excellence. Excellence is not an act, it is a habit. That kitchen taught me the value of hard work, the importance of humility, and the necessity of resilience. It taught me that if you can't manage a sink full of dirty dishes with total dedication, you will never have the character to manage a global technology revolution. We started NVIDIA with a vision for 3D graphics, but the world didn't ask for it. There was no market for what we wanted to build. We were looking for an impossible problem, and we found it in the pursuit of accelerated computing. We realized even then that the general-purpose computer, the CPU, would eventually reach a limit. We saw that if we wanted to solve the most complex problems in science and simulation, we had to move beyond the sequential processing of the past. We had to embrace parallel processing. We had to invent a completely new way of thinking about the relationship between software and silicon. That journey was filled with failure. People see NVIDIA today and think our success was inevitable. It was anything but. In 1997, we were 30 days away from bankruptcy. We had developed an architecture that was fundamentally different from the industry standard, and it wasn't working. We were out of money and out of time. I had to go to our partners and show extreme humility, admitting our mistakes and asking for the grace to try one more time. That moment forged our character. It taught us that we are always 30 days from going out of business. That sense of urgency, that run, don't walk mentality has been the heartbeat of this company for 30 years. It is what allows us to tackle the problems that nobody else wants to touch. The most profound, impossible problem we are facing today is the complexity of life itself. For decades, we have used computers to simulate the world of bits, software, graphics, the internet. But the world of atoms, the world of biology, has remained largely a mystery. We have been discovering biology for centuries, like explorers looking at a new continent from the shore. We observe, we categorize, and we hope to find a cure for a disease or a way to improve a crop. But we haven't been able to engineer biology. We haven't been able to treat life as a language that can be read, understood, and written. That is changing right now. We are entering the era of digital biology. If you look at life through first principles, you realize that DNA is not just a biological molecule. It is a code. It is a digital sequence. It is a language composed of 4 letters, A, T, C, and G. Every living thing on this planet, from the smallest bacteria to the most complex human brain, is the result of this software. For 60 years, we have been trying to understand this code using the tools of general-purpose computing. But general-purpose computing is not the right tool for the language of life. Life is massive. Life is parallel. Life is multidimensional. To understand DNA, you have to understand the physics of how proteins fold. You have to understand the chemistry of how molecules interact. You have to understand the vast, interconnected networks of the human genome. This is a task that the law of Moore could never solve on its own. The traditional path of making CPUs faster and smaller was never going to give us the compute power needed to simulate a single cell, let alone a human body. The only way forward is accelerated computing. By using the GPU to parallelize these massive biological simulations, we are finally able to see the structure of life in high resolution. We are applying the same longitudinal strategy to biology that we applied to 3D graphics and AI. We are building the tools, the platforms, and the libraries that will allow every scientist and every researcher to treat biology as an information science. We are building the AI factories, powered by Blackwell and the most advanced networking on the planet, to manufacture intelligence that understands the language of the cell. This is the new industrial revolution. In the old revolution, we used energy to create mechanical power. In this revolution, we are using compute to create intelligence. And the most valuable intelligence we can create is the intelligence that understands ourselves. When AI learns the language of life, it doesn't just look at DNA as a string of letters. It understands the meaning behind those letters. It understands the grammar of protein folding and the syntax of genetic expression. This is the power of generative AI applied to biology. We are moving from a world of computer-aided discovery to a world of computer-aided design. Imagine being able to design a protein that has never existed in nature to target a specific cancer cell. Imagine being able to write a genetic sequence that makes a plant resistant to drought and heat. This is not science fiction. This is the work we are doing today with BioNeMo and our partners across the global biotech industry. But to solve a problem this big, you cannot have a traditional corporate structure. At NVIDIA, we have a flat organization. I have 50 direct reports. Why? Because I want to be as close to the truth as possible. I don't want information to be filtered and sanitized as it moves up a hierarchy. I want to hear from the engineers who are wrestling with the physics of the silicon and the biologists who are wrestling with the complexity of the genome. In a flat structure, everyone is a leader. Everyone has the autonomy to run toward the fire. And when you are trying to bridge the gap between computer science and life science, you need that agility. You need everyone to be moving at the speed of light. I wish you could feel the urgency that I feel. We are at a 1990s moment for biology. Just as the internet redefined every aspect of our lives in the decades that followed, digital biology is about to redefine healthcare, agriculture, and sustainability. We cannot walk toward this future. We must run. Every day we delay is a day we aren't solving a disease. Every day we delay is a day we aren't finding a way to feed a growing population on a warming planet. This is why we focus on first principles. When the physics of the problem changes, you have to change your mind. The physics of biology has shifted from a science of observation to a science of simulation. We are no longer limited by how many experiments a human can perform in a lab. We are only limited by how much compute we can provide to an AI that can perform 1 billion experiments in a digital twin. This digital twin, this omniverse of biology, is where the future of medicine will be written. We are building virtual laboratories where we can simulate the interaction of a new drug with a human heart before it ever enters a clinical trial. We are building digital models of the human brain to understand the mysteries of consciousness and the causes of neurodegenerative diseases. We are doing this because the work of our lives is to build things that didn't exist before. If we didn't build CUDA, the AI revolution would have happened much later, if at all. If we didn't build the modern GPU, the world of 3D graphics would still be in the dark ages. And if we don't build the infrastructure for digital biology, we will continue to be spectators to our own health. We refuse to be spectators. We choose to be builders. Building the future requires a level of resilience that is often painful. It requires you to be okay with being misunderstood for a long time. People asked us for years why a graphics company was so obsessed with biology. They didn't see the connection, but we saw it. We saw that the same parallel processing that makes a video game look beautiful is the same parallel processing that can simulate the folding of a protein. We saw that the language of a virtual world and the language of a living cell are both just complex sequences of information that can be accelerated. This vision is what keeps us moving. It's what keeps me waking up every morning with that same 30 days from bankruptcy intensity. I don't care about the stock price. I don't care about the accolades. I care about the work. I care about the impossible problems that are still unsolved. I care about the fact that we have only begun to scratch the surface of what is possible when AI learns the language of life. The transition from general-purpose computing to accelerated computing is not just a technical shift. It is a moral imperative. If we have the technology to save lives and we don't build it as fast as humanly possible, that is a failure. And NVIDIA is not a company that accepts failure without learning. We are a company that has been forged by failure. We are a company of survivors who have learned that the only way to stay alive is to keep running. Run, don't walk. We are seeing the convergence of 3 massive forces: the rise of generative AI, the maturity of accelerated computing, and the digitization of biology. When these 3 forces meet, they create a perfect storm of innovation. We are no longer just using computers to help us think. We are using computers to help us live. Think about the alphabet of life again: A, T, C, G. For millions of years, these letters have been combining in random ways through evolution. Sometimes the results are beautiful, and sometimes they are tragic, but it was always a process of chance. Now, for the first time, it is becoming a process of choice. We are learning how to speak the language. We are learning how to read the blueprint, and once you can read the blueprint, you can start to repair the house. The complexity is staggering. A single human cell contains 6 billion letters of DNA. If you were to read them out loud, 1 letter per second, it would take you 200 years to finish. No human brain can find the patterns in that much data. No CPU can process it in a time frame that matters for a patient in a hospital. But an AI factory powered by tens of thousands of Blackwell GPUs can analyze that sequence in minutes. It can find the single mutation that is causing a disease. It can predict how that mutation will change the shape of a protein, and it can suggest a way to fix it. This is the truth about the future. Everything will be accelerated. Every industry, every science, every aspect of the human experience. But no acceleration will be as meaningful as the one that happens in life science. We are not just making things faster, we are making them possible. The resilience that started at that Denny's table, the dishwasher's dedication to excellence, is the same energy we bring to the lab today. We treat the most complex genetic problem with the same intensity I brought to a sink full of dirty dishes. You have to care about the small things if you want to change the big things. You have to be humble enough to realize how much we still don't know, but urgent enough to try to find out anyway. Anyway, as we bridge this gap, we find that the true secret of life is not just in the sequence of the DNA, but in the three-dimensional shapes that this sequence creates. A strand of DNA is like a set of instructions, but a protein is the machine that actually does the work. Proteins are the engines of life. They are the building blocks of your muscles, the enzymes that digest your food, and the antibodies that fight off viruses. For 50 years, figuring out the shape of a single protein from its genetic code was a PhD's worth of work. It was a problem that required months of specialized X-ray crystallography and millions of dollars. It was a bottleneck that held back the entire field of medicine. But by applying the first principles of accelerated computing, we've turned that 50-year problem into a 5-minute task. With AlphaFold and our BioNeMo platform, we have moved from the description of life to the prediction of life. We can now see the 3D architecture of nearly every protein known to science. This is equivalent to going from a world where we only had a map of the coastline to a world where we have a high-resolution 3D model of every city, street, and building on the continent. This is the moment biology becomes engineering. When you can predict the shape of a protein, you can design a drug to fit into it like a key into a lock. You can design enzymes that break down plastic in the ocean. You can design new ways to capture carbon from the atmosphere. This is why the AI factory is so essential to the future of biology. You cannot do this work on a laptop. You cannot do it on a traditional CPU-based cloud. To simulate the language of life, you need a massive specialized infrastructure. You need the Blackwell architecture, which we designed with a transformer engine specifically to handle the trillions of tokens that make up the human genome and the proteome. We are building the world's first bio-supercomputers, intelligence factories, where the product isn't just data, but biological solutions. I want to talk about the digital twin of the cell. In our industrial work, we use NVIDIA Omniverse to build digital twins of factories and cities so we can simulate them before we build them. We are now doing the same for biology. We are building the Omniverse of life. Imagine a virtual cell where every metabolic pathway, every genetic switch, and every molecular interaction is simulated with physical accuracy. In this virtual world, we can test 1 million different drug candidates in a few seconds. We can see how a mutation in the DNA will ripple through the entire system to cause a disease. We can fail 1,000 times in simulation so that when we finally go to the wet lab, we succeed on the first try. This in silico first approach is the only way we will solve the most complex diseases. We have spent centuries treating the symptoms of disease because we didn't understand the underlying code. But when AI learns the language of life, we move toward personalized medicine at a planetary scale. We can sequence your specific DNA, identify the specific proteins that are malfunctioning in your body, and design a treatment that is unique to you. This is the ultimate expression of the work of our lives, using technology to honor the uniqueness of every human life. But this journey requires us to rethink our organizations. Just as the silicon must be co-designed with the software, the biologist must be co-designed with the computer scientist. At NVIDIA, our flat structure allows these two worlds to collide every day. I don't want the biologists in one building and the AI researchers in another. I want them in the same room, arguing over the first principles of the problem. I want the information to flow without the friction of middle management. When you eliminate the silos, you accelerate the discovery. This is the sovereign AI of biology. Every nation has a unique genetic heritage. Your population's DNA is your national treasure. You cannot export that data to another country to have it processed. You must build your own bio-AI factories to understand your own people's health. We are helping nations all over the world build these sovereign biological clouds powered by NVIDIA technology so they can manufacture their own cures and their own agricultural breakthroughs. I know that the path forward is difficult. I know that the skeptics will say that biology is too messy for AI or that the DNA code is too complex to ever truly understand. But they said the same thing about 3D graphics 30 years ago. They said the same thing about deep learning 10 years ago. They are always wrong because they underestimate the power of resilience and the speed of accelerated computing. If you want to be a part of this revolution, you have to be willing to endure the pain and suffering of the pioneer. You have to be willing to work on problems that have no guaranteed payoff. You have to be willing to fail for years in the pursuit of a single breakthrough. I still feel that urgency every single day. I still feel like we are that tiny company at Denny's trying to convince the world that there is a better way to compute. The stakes are higher now. We are talking about the health of the planet and the survival of our species. But the spirit is the same. We are moving from a world of discovery by accident to a world of excellence by design. By 2026, we will see the first drugs designed entirely by AI entering clinical trials. We will see the first crops engineered for a warming world. We will see the beginning of the end for diseases that have haunted humanity for millennia. This is the promise of the age of digital biology. The future is not a place we are going to. It is a world we are building. And we are building it right now, one GPU at a time, one protein fold at a time, and one life-saving insight at a time. The transition from general-purpose computing to accelerated computing is the foundation upon which this new world is built. It is the only way to process the immense complexity of life. I want to thank all of the scientists, the researchers, and the developers who are using our platform to tackle these impossible problems. You are the reason we push the limits of physics. You are the reason we bet the company on every new architecture. We provide the engines, but you are the ones who are driving us toward a healthier, more sustainable future. Before I leave you today, I want to invite you to be a part of this conversation. If you are inspired by the potential of AI to decode the language of life, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. It helps us grow this community of builders and visionaries. And most importantly, if you have questions about digital biology, about the Blackwell architecture, or about how to apply these first principles to your own work, leave them in the comments below. I, Jensen, will be reading them, and I will respond to your questions as quickly as I can. Let's engage in the hard work of understanding the future together. The logic of our mission is simple, irrefutable, and absolute. Life is a code, and AI is the only tool powerful enough to read it. If we can read the code, we can repair the world. There is so much more to do, and so little time to do it. We have the tools. We have the vision. Now, we need the resilience to see it through. Run, don't walk. Toward your dreams, toward the next era of medicine, toward the revolution of life itself. Thank you.